Good afternoon, everybody. Danny here, Soccer Expansion Project. Let me click over to this. So, Soccer Expansion Project, just to let you know what it's all about. So, on the right hand side, we've got our partners. Our partner list is currently growing. So, we're working with the likes of Soccer Profile, Stuart, and Gary Monk. Gary was a Premier League manager at Swansea, and they're putting together platforms to help coaches and players. They'll be involved as well. So on the right hand side, we've got admin things, we've got player related data, coaches, curriculums, the whole thing, all the way through to developers who might want to start franchises or land development, those types of things. Parent support, retail, people need stuff right at some point. On the left hand side is everybody, so I put this big word traffic. Anyone that's looking to grow the game, looking to make this game better, improve it as coaches, players, parents, clubs, whatever it might be. Can we all be on the same page to find some common ground to say these are the things that we'd like to see, and everyone, I won't say agrees with all that, but there are founding principles as soccer providers. And for me, we talk about the fact that we want to make sure that we are providing opportunities for kids, and going through COVID and all the other things and anxieties and challenges that the kids have, and especially the teenage years. We strongly believe that, my area of big impact on the world is to say that we can save kids. I really believe that. I really do. If you've got the right people, the right offerings, we can have a massive influence on these kids' lives. And I think that's really important. Sounds big, but it is. It's important. So within the Soccer Expansion Project, we're building the platform. It's going to take a couple of weeks to make sure it's shiny and looks good. Be a little membership area where we can bring in together all those people on the right hand side and bring them in to us as in a way of support. So we've got some expert knowledge, we've got some chat support groups, we've got webinars, PDFs, presentations, forums, offers, access, educational resources, anything that would be, we're looking to triage all the stuff that's out there and really get down to the top quality information and education to help people do a good job. I'm not saying we're doing a bad job, but I think we can always agree there's opportunities to improve. So anyway, today's topic, I haven't really got anything put on the board here, but I'll just talk over my logo. This is the idea of what happens when the score gets lopsided. It happened to one of our teams at the weekend. It's not infrequent, across the country, across all the games that get played. Sometimes you have a mismatch. I think if we all agree that we're in this together and we're here to provide a good educational environment for kids on both sides, the reds and the blues, or the whites and the greens, whatever it might be, whatever your team colours, what do we have a plan of action? Is there a code of ethics? How does that look? And it's tricky, and I'm welcome to ideas. I know that we had a coach at one point that won a game 15-0, and I challenged that person, and the arguments were, valid, if that's the right word. That person was talking about the fact that it was, we can't, on the stronger side, if you've got stronger players, that's an area to congratulate them. Well done. It's a recognition of their work and their dedication to training in the game. I get all of that. He would ask things like, what happens if we have a breakaway and we can't turn around and not score or shoot towards a corner flag? I get that. Those things to manage among youth players is tricky. One thing we spoke about, I'm just rambling here, there's no real set agenda, is, if you are a much stronger team and you ask players to only say score, people say, well, that's just 6 passes before you can shoot. Well, if you're a much stronger team and you've got a group of players that like and respect you as a coach, they're going to go do that, right? You can only score with attempted bicycle kicks. They're going to go try and do that. And so it doesn't really, I won't say solve the problem, of, if that's the right word, of overscoring, but, what can be done? It's a challenge. Again, traditionally it might be players play with a weaker foot. There might be a rotation of players in terms of position on the field. Those type of things. You might play what happens if you bring your goalkeeper out? Put your goalkeeper up front. I've had that happen to us where the goalkeeper then scores. What happens to the fans and the kids? They go berserk. I feel bad. The other team are like, oh really? You brought your goalie out? And they've scored their only goal in 4 years. against us? I mean, if we're agreeing that we are trying to find a way to grow the sport and increase the kids, and why wouldn't we if we're also agreeing that sports are the core or a core element of social upbringing and stability and all the good things that can come from that? What happens to that team that's faced that? Do the kids not come back? That's not fun. I get that there might be one-off learning experiences, but I don't know. I'd struggle if my kid said, well, that wasn't fun, Dad. I'd probably agree with them. And what if they say, I'm going to do something else? We've lost. What if they go say even worse? We're not competing with other sports. We're saying, what if they decide that they don't want to do any sport? I'm going to go and hang out at home and watch TV all day long. I think that's a massive problem. So if you're a coach and you've got a mismatch, how can you find a way to challenge your players, be respectful of the opposition, give your players puzzles and things to solve, while not making it 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever the scores might be? It's a real conundrum. I remember I played a game once where we took a group. I was a younger coach, or young in my career, and I was sort of, I won't say headstrong, but I back then I attached my identity to what we did on the field, which can often lead to coaches being a little crazy. And I wasn't crazy, but I felt certainly a lot of pride in terms of the work we were trying to do. Took a team down. We played, this team were unbelievable. I mean, just massively good. It was 5-0 at halftime. They were so good. And we had a really good group. We just happened to play in a particular division or a particular game that was a big mismatch. The other team were very respectful, but they were 16, 17 boys, very, very good. 5-0 halftime. So at halftime, I spoke about digging in, went a little defensive, just take pride in winning the small battles and stopping them playing. And the second half was 1-1. And I felt this swell of pride. I'm like, oh my gosh, my boys responded. I was probably in my late 20s then. My boys responded to my coaching instructions, and the parents are going to see that. And I'm a great coach. Back when in your younger days, that's I think some of the things that you're trying to stake your claim for a career. If that's the right phrase, probably not. Anyway, the boys came in and said, hey, that's fantastic. 1-1 second half, guys, because we did these things I told you to do. Look at me, aren't I great? Back in my naive days. And the boys said, Danny, they only play with 9. And I was like, oh no. So the other team deliberately played with 9. The big problem being, I didn't even notice. It was an even second half. 1-1, but they had 2 less players. Our guys were good about it, but I learned a big lesson right there. Like, I humbled myself again. Like, what am I doing? Just have some sort of awareness of what's going on around you. But I thought that was an interesting thing for the other team to do. They played the same way. They played with the same intentions. They just had a couple less players, and it made for a better game. And actually, when I realised, that my players made me realise, I thanked the coach, and he said, no, it was a good exercise for us. Frankly, I think that was a very good solution. It gave his players more of a challenge. It gave my players the chance to compete in a match, and he probably saved a few legs. And it was a good second half. It was a worthwhile educational second half. But that went outside the boundaries of potentially what you might do typically. You're going to tell a 12-year-old to not shoot or pass the ball backwards. There's been teams where we've played keep away, or they've played keep away, and in their own half, and we just chase for 20 minutes. That is incredibly demoralising as well. So it's a real challenge, and I'm leaving it out there because it happens a lot. Across the country, I imagine it happens quite frequently. There's going to be these mismatches, and how do you handle that? I would probably say, if it was us, I would make sure, first of all, that the players were going to attempt to pass the ball more. In the middle third of the field, choose to come backwards when they can, not always go forward. Use the goalkeeper as much as possible, and try and play and score what we might say, potentially useful goals, good goals. But again, at some point, if there is a big mismatch, if that's still happening at I'm making this up, 15, 16. We've never been in those situations, of course. That's not great either. So I like the idea of taking players off the field. I think that could be a good solution. Interested to see what people might think or do, or whether they disagree and that the score should keep going. But I would just caution everybody on that. Not that I'm somebody stood on a on a hill shouting, or you should listen to me. But again, if we can agree that as a whole, as soccer providers, coaches, educators, mentors, and all the great things that can come from that, if we all agree that our sport can save kids and do this good for kids, save their lives potentially, serious, really serious, why would we run the risk of running up the score to the point where the opposition's players don't play anymore and find other avenues for growing up, which could be antisocial behaviour or worse? So I know that's my 2 cents. I'd be interested to see what people think, and just my musings for the day. All right, more tomorrow from the Soccer Expansion Project. I appreciate you listening to me ramble. Again, these things come up. This is the life we lead. Can we make it better? Can we improve each other? Can we challenge each other and make it an environment that's good for kids, or better for kids? All right, cheers. See you at some point in the future. Cheers.